In my last video, I wasn't able to talk much about Berserk as a series just because it was a very raw and short, kind of unscripted tribute. And these past couple of days, across the whole anime and manga community, Berserk is all that's been on most of our minds. So I wanted to make at least one more video in honor of the series and the parts that I love about it. And as I mentioned in my last video, one of the things I love most about Berserk is the fanbase. The fact that so many different kinds of people, from new, younger kids interested in anime, to grown men who have been with the series from the start. We're so unified in our love and passion for the series as we follow Guts on his adventures. And so today I'm talking about the parts of the series that I feel made it resonate to such a diverse fanbase. The storytelling aspects that reach to anyone and tugs on their heartstrings despite where they're from or what they've been through. Because I feel like if there's one thing Berserk can do, or has done from the last couple days, it's bringing people together. Roll the intro. What I first want to talk about is the concept of the struggler. After the eclipse, Guts is labeled with this title as he's the sole force to battle against the immeasurable tides pushing against him. The God Hand, apostles, the world itself. The moment Guts was marked with the brand of sacrifice, he was destined to struggle endlessly against the darkness. And what I love about the idea of a struggler is, in a way, how utterly relatable it is. How Guts' struggles can be taken out of the context of the story and applied to just about anyone reading it. Let me explain a bit further. As the struggler, Guts never really gets a win. After finding a home in the Band of the Hawk and finally reaching the success and fame that they all collectively strived for, it was stripped away at the eclipse. After finally finding love in Casca, she is abused in front of him and her mind is clouded after the eclipse. After saving Casca at the Tower of Conviction, it comes at the cost of Griffith's rebirth, of the entire world changing once again. There is never a time when Guts wholeheartedly wins anymore. There is always another threat or challenge rounding its head right after he gets one. He is, in every sense of the word, the perpetual and endless struggler. He can never relax his body or mind as spirits constantly berate him in the night, and because of his armor, his body is constantly pushed to the absolute limits far past just what a mere human can do. But there are moments, short, fleeting moments after a long battle when everything feels alright. Like it'll all be okay. Even though there's a part of us that knows that by the next chapter, it probably won't be okay. Berserk teaches us to be satisfied with the small things. To be happy with just the fact that you've managed to live another day. And that is the inherent beauty of being the struggler. All of us have struggles in our lives, and rarely will there come a time when everything is peachy and perfect. Even at the current part in Berserk on Elfheim, though everything is probably the most peaceful it's ever been in like 20 years since the Golden Age arc, it is far from perfect. Casca is still ridden with PTSD. Guts still can't handle the uncontrollable burden and rage of the Berserker armor. Life will never get to the point where there's nothing to worry about, something that Berserk makes painfully clear through Guts' endless suffering throughout the story. And this is one of the most important ways that Miura's work resonates with people, even though it is, at just surface level, a manga about a guy killing monsters. No one has it as bad as Guts does. Seeing Guts fail or lose a fight is heartbreaking, because it's just about never fair to begin with. He's fighting against monsters beyond a normal human's comprehension, but he sucks it up and continues fighting against odds that never favor him and comes out on top. It makes all of our mere struggles feel manageable. We can connect with Guts because we've all had problems, and we have to find those key moments. The small things that make fighting on worth it. That is the meaning of being the struggler. What I also think is just an absolutely phenomenal part of Berserk in a storytelling aspect is the stakes it sets. This is one of the biggest distinguishers between generally seinen and shonen manga, is the idea that at any point in the story, one of your favorite characters can die or lose just like that. That the villains will probably end up winning a lot of the time. Granted, it's not like shonen manga don't have stakes though. But in most stories, the stakes are established in generally the same way. Either the main character will face a huge loss but still survive, of course, showing the readers or watchers that it's not as easy as just winning every time. Or one of the main character's friends or loved ones will die by a villain and establish the stakes indirectly. For example, in sports manga, it almost always takes the shape of the former, with the loss to Aoba Josai in Haikyuu, the loss to Date Eiji in Hajime no Ippo. After the first couple introduction arcs, our main characters almost always face a big loss, to kind of bring us back to the ground and understand that not everything is that easy. We also see it in Fullmetal Alchemist, with the first fight against Scar that ends in complete failure for the Elric brothers, or the reveal of Aizen's plan and betrayal at the end of Soul Society. And in the other case, there's situations like the death of Jiraiya in Naruto or Kamina in Gurren Lagann. I'm sorry if these are spoilers, I tried choosing shows that are pretty old or pretty well known by this point. And then there's manga that do both, like One Piece with the loss at Sabaody and then the major death in Marineford. And Berserk does this as well, it does both, but in a way that far surpasses the loss and scale of any other manga or anime, in my opinion, through the Eclipse. After the long and absolutely masterful duration of the Golden Age arc, it climaxes in the Eclipse. And up until this point, it was already clear that everyone was fighting with their life on the line in Berserk. It was pretty obvious. But with the failed assassination attempt on Griffith, Guts surviving against 100 soldiers, it felt like our main cast was, even in the worst possible situations, always going to pull through. That is, until the Eclipse happened. The moment that every single character we had grown to love was killed in one fell swoop. And if they didn't die like Casca, her mind was wiped and her body was violated. Guts went through the mental torture of witnessing that all, plus losing his arm and eye. Not only did Guts himself face a huge loss, but we saw the death of not just one of his close friends, but all of them. It makes it clear that Berserk isn't playing around, that these lives can disappear in any second, and the Eclipse raised the stakes of this series to an unreachable standard. It's truly the pinnacle of the jaw-dropped, eyes-wide, holy crap moment that you rarely come across in anime or manga. You feel like if there's anything bad that can potentially happen, it will happen in Berserk, and it makes the trials Guts goes through all the more visceral. He's fighting, and both the reader and him know that one wrong move means that he dies and everyone he's protecting dies with him. And high stakes are important because it keeps the story moving. It makes the reader want to flip each page and raises the tension with each flip. If the main character wins each time, it gets repetitive and boring. In sports anime, they have to make them lose at some point because otherwise the watchers will just always go into a game not wondering about the outcome, but just wondering about how they'll win this time. It takes a huge aspect of a good fight or good match out of the equation and leaves the story kind of hollow. And in Berserk with the Eclipse, it shows that the stakes are at the highest level possible. It is the ultimate reminder that in the world of Berserk, loss is everywhere. No one is exempt. I think that the Eclipse and the establishment of stakes works really well with the first aspect I mentioned as well, which is the presence of the struggler. Not only does it make Guts' struggles feel real, like there's a real reason that he's fighting to avoid the fate that the Band of the Hawk experienced, but it also makes those small moments I was talking about earlier even more satisfying. Even though they're so short and fleeting, you feel so much happier with them. That against all the odds, Guts and his crew manage to make it out through their will to continue. It gives the reader strength. I saw this a lot in the comments on my last video, how Berserk brought a lot of people up in a dark time and period of their life. And I think all of this is a big reason why. It can connect to anyone who's struggled or had issues before through Guts' story, despite how fantastical and dark it is. I think it can be attributed to masterful writing on Miura's part and just great use of storytelling devices in general. I love Berserk. I haven't read it in a while, but I think after everything that's happened, I'll probably reread it and once again see the beauty of this series. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, this has been the Anime Culture Corner. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future in-depth show, manga, and character analyses.